GZM Shows and the creators of 6 Minutes are rolling out their newest audio adventure with the podcast Discovering Dad. A cautious single dad with a secret past and his rebellious kids embark on a thrilling quest complete with hidden treasure, villains, and a family curse. New episodes of Discovering Dad roll out weekly starting June 11th on Apple Podcasts. Follow the show so you never miss an episode, or listen early and ad-free as a GZM Shows subscriber. Go to gzmshows.com to learn more.
Hey there, it's Rachel Ballinger, and I am thrilled to invite you to Rachel Uncensored, my podcast where I get real with my friends and celebrity guests, where we talk about all sorts of topics. From personal stories to hot-button issues, we cover it all. New episodes drop every Wednesday, so make sure you tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on the fun and candid conversations we have here on Rachel Uncensored.
Hey, this is Brett the Hitman Hart.
This is Dina Parisi, 2015 IHRA Pro Mod World Champion.
Hi, I'm Fiona Forbes.
Hi, this is Jody Emery of Cannabis Culture and Pot TV.
Hey, I'm drummer Matt Chamberlain.
Hello, this is Melissa Etheridge.
Hi, this is Taylor Leanne Chandler, Michael Phelps' ex-girlfriend.
Hey, it's Rex Brown.
Seaball in the house, and you are listening to the Todd Cast here on CKDJ, the hits of your life.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by The Pint, Vancouver's favorite sports bar at 455 Abbott Street and online at vancouver.thepint.ca. Now, here's your host, Todd Hancock.
When you think back on your life and the people you've come to meet and where they end up, the places, the careers, kids, no kids, it really is incredible, isn't it? You know, I've been a part of Vancouver's indie music scene since the early 2000s, having a chance to be CFOX's indie music director, a radio station here in Vancouver, and the host of the wildly successful Indie Night in Canada, playing bands on the radio and hosting a bunch of local concerts. And of course, this podcast as well, where we focus on Canadian independent music, create shows with local bands like the one we have coming up next month at Blue Light Studio in East Vancouver. We'll be announcing that, by the way, in the next couple, 2-3 weeks kind of thing. Do you remember a band called Hybrid Cartel? This was back in the mid-2000s. They placed on CFOX's Seeds contest, which is basically a battle of the bands through the radio station. The same contest that discovered Nickelback, Biff Naked, Matthew Good, Daniel Wesley, State of Shock. I mean, it was truly, anyway, the singer of Hybrid Cartel was a guy named Antonio Cupo, a solid guy, funny guy, who you would know now as an accomplished actor. And Antonio is a guest this week.
Yeah, so it's like there's and you know, you could be so many things in life, and you could I guess it represents a kind of a period in my life, because I did, in a way, turn my back, so to speak, on it and just kind of move in another direction. I was always, at the same time I was playing music, I was kind of always acting. And what had happened was I was taking all of my acting money and spending it on music. And I had this sort of light bulb go off in my head, because, you know, music is like, but when you're like, you're buying guitars, you're buying amps, you're buying studio time, you're buying everything. Right. You know, it's like, and for what, you know, like, yeah, you get a few spins on the radio here and there, but that's not going to pay your bills. So it's really a labor of love. And when you approach it like that and you understand it as that, I think you can start enjoying it in a different way.
Joining actor Antonio Cupo this week is the number 5 ranked UFC bantamweight fighter, Raquel Pennington.
Well, right now I'm trying to get back from, I've been on a mission. I just fought Aspen in April. And as far as the damage that I came out of the fight, I had only a fat lip. But then, of course, my hand was busted. So I had surgery. Just trying to get this thing functioning again. And as soon as my hand will bend and I can actually make a full fist and start punching with it, I want to get another fight in there. I would love to fight Ketlin Vera for a title elimination match. And then I want that world title shot again. So my goal is by the end of the year to be set up, if not fighting for the world title, to be set up for it and then start 2023 off with fighting for the world title.
You know, we've said this many times on the podcast. You've got to set goals, as you just heard with UFC fighter Raquel Pennington. She's a guest this week. Also, you'll hear from the singer of a rock band out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in just a minute. Coming up shortly, In Stop Me If You've Heard This Before, former High Times editor, now the editor of Northeast Leaf magazine, Danny Danko, talking about the insane idea that marijuana is a gateway drug. That is powered by our buddies at Puff. Hold it in. Get 20% off. Regularly priced cannabis accessories and apparel with the code TODCAST in store and online at puff.ca. That code, by the way, ends at the end of this month, June 30th. So if you're going to use it, you might want to get on it. First, let's get to the first guest of three. This week's musical guest, One Bad Son singer Shane Connery Volk. That is brought to you by Pineapple Sound, a recording and mixing studio in Langley since 2013. They have become good friends of the podcast. They, of course, welcome bands, but they get in deep. Podcasts, voiceover actors, anything you can think of to do in a recording studio, check them out through pineapplesound.com. One Bad Son has been around since 2004. We're almost at 20 years now. As mentioned, originally from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I don't think that they live there now. They have had a handful of top 10 singles in Canada. In fact, their song Raging Bull, you may remember, went to #1 on the charts. They are 6 albums in. They haven't released a new album since 2017, so it is time. And there's been some changes with the band's lineup over the last couple of years.
So Tara, yeah. So Ryan Cooley, he played 3 shows with us at the beginning of 2020. So he played 3 shows with us, okay. And then things shut down. So he's sort of been there for a while, even though he's only done a few for us. So he's solid bass player, musician in general. He's honestly a great guitar player as well, and a really good human being, which is always nice to have in the band. Yeah. And as far as Tara, there's been some changes. So Hicks leaving the band was tough. I mean, Hicks, Kurt and I are the founding members. Like we started the band, we've been through all the stuff together, so him, going on to some other stuff it's tough in in a lot of ways, of course, but we never wanted to replace him, where it's this is the new person. And we just want to kind of be organic with it and not, what's the right way to put it? Not in this way, where we're going to just forget about him. Here's the new people. We're just hey, this is the new version of OBS, whatever that's going to be. You're going to get new songs. And so, yeah, Tara's been awesome. We wrote 2 really cool songs with her. She was planning to play these first shows with us, but she got offered a very cool gig and an opportunity you don't say no to, which I can't talk about, but she had a very last minute thing come up that we were you have to go do that. Obviously you don't need our permission, but go get it. Yeah. So we're moving into this thing, which we kind of were already doing with her, which was having some different guitar players lined up, people that can play gigs and just professionals. And so it's kind of cool to have a little bit of a revolving door of pros that can step in and play gigs. So our first show was with Reed Shimazawa, who's from Calgary, plays in a bunch of different bands. He's awesome. We have a couple other guitar players lined up to. Basically, when we take a show, we run down the list of who can do it, and we go rock it, which is kind of cool to keep this fresh blood in the band all the time, and it really keeps things fresh. So that's kind of where we're at. And yeah, writing with Tara was awesome. She ironically lives 4 minutes away from me. We didn't know where she lived. Oh. We thought she lived in Toronto or something, and turns out she lives right down the street from me. So it was cool to just jump over and write some songs with her. So yeah, again, man, it adds to kind of this new freshness in the band with new people and, just a new feeling. And of course, coming out of COVID, there's just a feeling of rebirth in general. So everything that's been happening has been real good for us. So
pretty cool to get the inside scoop from the singer as the band kind of progresses and evolves over the years. Hey, Shane talking about lineup changes within One Bad Son. We talked for I think it's close to 40 minutes. You can hear it now at our iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. You can check it out through our YouTube accounts. All videos that we record, we post them up at the YouTube page. They're all at Toddcast podcast. Great to catch up with Shane. It had been a while. Of course, One Bad Son has been a staple in the old iTunes over the years. Cool to see these guys kind of carve out a bit of a following, playing dates with, over the years, you've seen him play with like Def Leppard, Judas Priest, Buck Cherry, 3 Days Grace. They played the Grey Cup festivities. We covered a lot of ground with Shane, everything from seeing AC/DC on their Ballbreaker tour, the superpower of flight, growing up to the music of the Stones, the Beatles, Paul Simon, the 90s alternative scene, and knowing that Shane is a comic book artist for Mad Cave Studios, we of course got him talking about comic books and comic book movies, and have to agree, it is kind of tough to compete with the Batman.
I love those. I mean, yeah, Logan was awesome. The game changer movie for me ever was Batman 1989, like Michael Keaton. That was like, in 89, it was like Batman came out, Ninja Turtles came out, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out, and it was like my world was just a whole different thing. But for modern movies, like the Batman was really good.
I thought it was good too.
I really liked it.
Some friends that were bagging on it pretty hard. It's like, what are you watching the same movie that I watched? Like
we're in the era, man, of we're in the era. Well, but we're in the era of like absolute fanboy culture where it's like no matter what happens, somebody has to shit on it. They just have to. And I mean, it's Batman now. You've seen a million movies, a million different interpretations, and like I think there's something cool about all of them, to be honest. Like I love the Christian Bale, like the Christopher Nolan series was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought Ben Affleck was great, though I didn't love those movies. Like I liked parts of them, but I'm like also like that was your interpretation of that character. And in our lifetime, man, we're going to see a million Batman movies. You're going to see a million Spider-Man movies. There's going to be, there's some of the Marvel movies I love, like the Thor movies have been, like Ragnarok was one of my favorites, and then Love and Thunder looks awesome. So
totally. I love the humor they inject in that.
Yeah, because they finally got it. It's like not every character can be dark, and Thor's a bit of a ridiculous character, so it's like just be out there with it. Like and I think that's why Marvel's had such a huge impact is they embraced the fact that like one movie can be more dark and serious, one movie can be a comedy, and they can all live in one universe, and that's why they're so popular, like brilliant on their part. They got staying power.
And it was very cool to hear how Shane came to work with Mad Cave Studios, thanks to his wife for helping him make that, and I say make in quote, air quotes, make that decision. He talked a bit about releasing solo material. His love of Todd McFarlane came up. How growing up in the 90s with Nirvana blowing up and comic books blowing up, and how that was kind of the last cosmic shift in both of those worlds.
Well, it's kind of nuts because it's like that era was pretty crazy. And when you were living through it as a kid, you didn't get the gravity of what was going on. Like when Nirvana came out and like those bands really just obliterated hair metal and all this stuff, living through it, you don't quite get the significance because I was just into whatever was coming out. Like I was listening to Metallica, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Van Halen. Do you know what I mean? Like it all was the same for me. And then only years later, you realize like, as you got older, like that, man, it was a seismic shift in music. And
it's some of the best music to ever come out.
Ever. And of course it's all back now. Everybody's back into the 90s and comics were the same, or it was this like when McFarlane and Jim Lee and all those guys hit with Marvel and they just amped up the art to this crazy place no one had ever seen before. Yeah, everybody just lost their minds. Like they'd never seen art like that. It was it's kind of cool because like what was happening in comic books and music at the time was very similar at a very similar time. Like there was a very distinctive shift before like 1990-ish and after, and of course in comics, it was tough because it caused the speculator boom and they were doing all these like variant covers and stuff. And actually like, comic books was nearly destroyed because of the popularity of that stuff. I mean, Jim Lee's X-Men 1 is still the highest selling book ever, like 6 million copies. Fast forward to like, 6 years later, they can't sell 100,000 copies, like, and it's, So it was so big that it's kind of like a wave, the wave hit, but eventually that wave's going to crash.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Honestly, when I look back on my time, like when I came into this world, like I've lived through, like for my vocations, like music and comic books, like two of the such huge, and maybe the last sort of seismic shifts in like comics and music.
No kidding, right? I mean, think about the last time that music had such an impact. Like nothing has come close to what Nirvana did at the time, obliterating a scene, creating a scene, a movement almost. We go into the shows that Shane's been binge watching, how he had a personal reset during the pandemic. We talked about our mutual love of Star Wars, The Mandalorian, the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and he talked about seeing Top Gun Maverick in theater and how blown away he was by it.
The most recent thing that I watched was Top Gun Maverick. Actually, we went and saw yesterday.
Yeah. I heard it was amazing.
Honestly, dude, it's like it's probably the best movie I've seen in years. Like, on the whole, I mean, it's an action movie. It's what it is, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It was like, if you're a fan of that kind of stuff, if you liked the first movie, it was everything you wanted it to be without just being like fan service.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Tom Cruise understood that like fans want to see what they want to see. Like it's Top Gun, this is not The Godfather. Like you're not, it's like, so it was just like the action was crazy and all the crazy things they're doing in these jets was insane, but the story was awesome. And it was like your hero got to be a hero, and there were interesting characters and dynamics. I'm like, that was just a great movie. Like I felt for the first time in a while, like I loved the Batman. I thought it was like a half hour too long. I'm like, it was the first time, and honestly, dude, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to just rip apart people's art, but this was the first movie in a while that I really was like, holy shit, it's over. Like, you know what I mean? Where it was like, it felt like watching movies when I was a kid where you're just kind of engrossed. And then, so that was super cool. I really dug that.
Musical guests of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Pineapple Sound, providing recording and mixing services for a wide range of artists and genres since 2013. Check them out at pineapplesound.com.
When you're alone, all alone.
Nude Vodka Soda powers the Toddcast podcast. Sugar and sweetener free with just 100 calories and 0 carbs per serving. Visit them online at nudebeverages.com.
And now, stop me if you've heard this before on the Toddcast podcast.
For as long as I can remember, marijuana legalization has been at the forefront of political agenda across the globe. Of course, here at home, here in Canada, we made it legal countrywide with the Cannabis Act on October 17, 2018. Quite honestly, that was something I didn't think I would ever see in my lifetime, going from knowing where to find weed, first off, then hiding from cops to smoke it, to now it's being sold in stores on almost every street corner in Vancouver. It's crazy, right? And at the same time, about time that was the case. And right around the time that Canada legalized marijuana, we had on former High Times editor Danny Danko, who is now the editor of Northeast Leaf magazine. He's also the host of the Grow Bud Yourself podcast. He's a brilliant follow on social media, an advocate, of course, of legalization of cannabis in the U.S. And when Danny was a guest, he talked about smoking pot with Chong. How cool would that be? How we're both Star Wars geeks. We learned about his first concert, seeing the B-52s. You'll love the story of how he became senior cultivation editor for High Times. At the time, he was binge watching Narcos. He shared a near-death story as well. And stop me if you've heard this before. Danny shared his thoughts on people calling marijuana a gateway drug.
That argument doesn't really hold any water with me because if marijuana was legal, it certainly would not be a gateway drug, and I think it's not a gateway drug in the many people that I meet who are, simply just marijuana users, and really that's the only thing they do in their lives that is considered to be like an illegal activity, and yet it turns them against the police because you don't want an encounter with the police when you know that they have that against you. But the gateway drug theory has been debunked so many times that it doesn't really it's hard to even do it any justice. You can call sugar a gateway drug, and you can call nicotine a gateway drug, and you could certainly call alcohol a gateway drug, and those things are all perfectly legal. I don't think it's as important to find out, what it is that led someone down a path of using harder drugs as it is to understand why they're using those harder drugs. And I've in my life seen many people who have actually used cannabis as a gateway out of alcohol addiction and opiate addiction and hard drug use. So, we know of places in legal states where people have, marijuana-friendly or cannabis-friendly AA and NA meetings for people who are medical patients who are using marijuana as sort of the gateway back from harder drug use and alcohol abuse. And I think, for so many people that I've met, that's a huge benefit, especially veterans who are suffering from PTSD and have prescriptions. They can get any prescription for any drug and they can drink themselves to death if they choose. But God forbid that they use cannabis to help them with, their brain injuries or their post-traumatic stress. It's shameful that those arguments even still exist. And I think the only people that are propping up arguments like the gateway drug theory are people who stand to profit from the illegality of marijuana.
Stop Me If You've Heard This Before on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Puff, purveyors of quality cannabis accessories since 1995. Use promo code TODCAST and get 20% off regularly priced accessories and apparel in-store and online at puff.ca.
You're able to rip
That band is Nicholas Rage and their awesome song called Dirty Talk, possibly one of the best indie rock songs to come out in the last few years. Love that band. They are the lone non-Vancouver band this week, unless you don't consider the band prior to them called Minefield a Vancouver band. Maybe they're actually not when you come to think about it. They are fronted by Todd Kearns, who, of course, we consider from Vancouver, although he's been living in Vegas now for ages. Regardless, you heard Minefield, and that was their song called Alone Together. Been talking with Todd Kearns about doing another one of those acoustic Q&A shows with us. So with any luck, with his tour schedule with Slash and everything else that he's a part of, Bruce Kulick's project and everything else, maybe we'll line up something with him later on this year, and maybe we can make that happen. Be very cool. As always, big thanks to our title sponsor, The Pint Vancouver, 455 Abbott Street in Gastown, online at vancouver.thepint.ca. They are a big reason why we're able to continue and trudge along as we do. In fact, we just took out their GM, Nate, to see the Veer Union show at the Roxy a few weeks back, and we absolutely blew the place up. We threw down like it was crazy. The next day I was a complete write-off. In fact, almost 2 days. But anyway, great night. We started at the Pint, of course, a bunch of wings and plenty of nachos. They've got a huge nacho plate, a few shots, a few beers kind of thing. The Bolts game playing in the background. This is before they advanced to the finals. The place for pre-Canucks partying, of course. UFC fights. Great to have them back on board. Cannot say enough good things about the Pint. Coming up in just a few minutes, in Listen to This, UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling talking about the day that he got a call to fight in the world's biggest fight organization. That is powered by our good friends at Tedco RV Supplies out in Langley. RV service and repair, ICBC accredited. You can check them out on Facebook and on Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies. First, let's do this. The second of 3 Toddcast guests this week is our sporting guest, UFC bantamweight fighter Raquel Pennington, powered by Capit Chilliwack, providing the best quality products and services for you and your truck. Tules, tonneau covers, rooftop tents, step bars, floor liners, and a bunch more. Check them out, of course, in Chilliwack, or if you'd rather be on the computer in front of the Facebook.com/ChilliwackCapit. You can see everything they've got there. Raquel Pennington is currently ranked, I think we said number 5. Number 5 bantamweight fighter for the UFC. She's the number 15 pound-for-pound fighter. Top 20 toughest person on the planet for her weight. She's been in the game a long time. You'll remember she used to fight for Invicta Fighting Championships, and she talks about how the women's game has changed over the years.
For me, I think the biggest thing is just watching the sport evolve, especially for women's MMA. Like it's really cool. When I first started this sport, I mean, it was not a thing for women. And when I first started fighting, like actually getting in there, I fought some of the girls multiple times just because of the fact that like there wasn't opponents. And now to see like the young athletes who are starting at such a young age and watching the little kids get on the mats and they're out there wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu in their little gis, like, oh man, awesome.
It really is cool to see the kids. I got my little gaffer Levi into kickboxing, pancration, and he absolutely loves it. Comes out of those sessions just full red face and, beaming that he just learned how to do an armbar or a spinning back fist, or I learned how to choke somebody out. It's very cool, is it not? Especially as mentioned, the women's division and how they've grown over the years. I will admit it took me some time to embrace it, but now that I have, I mean, bring on the women. The full talk with Raquel is 25 minutes long. You can hear it, you can see it. We did it again on Zoom through our social media platforms, all at Toddcast Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, of course, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything else. And we talk all sorts of things with Raquel, from seeing NSYNC at the Mile High Stadium to COVID and how that gave her a chance to mentally reset and hang out with the family. We talked about binge watching Lincoln Lawyer, Mayans MC, the fact that she's always been a bit of an athlete, growing up playing softball and basketball and volleyball and running cross country. She never did play at the collegiate level because she broke her back.
I'm a little adrenaline junkie. And so I do things that we were actually just talking about this yesterday, but like now that I'm older and I think back to things I was doing, like too many things.
Like how did I live through that? How did I not die there? Like,
no, for real. Like, but I mean, you know, I love the stories and, you know, I love the life that I've lived and the adventures I've had. And now that I'm getting older, like I am more cautious, but there are things that like, I'm still going to go out and do and live my life. I mean, I can trip and fall getting out of bed tomorrow morning, hit my head on the dresser, and that can be the end of it. Like, you don't know.
Sure.
And so it's just like, I believe in living life to the fullest, but, no, my back, you know, I mean, it held me up for a little while and I had a lot of like, sciatic issues and whatnot. And I still get them if I don't stay too active. Like when I take some time off, my back will start acting up and I can feel those previous injuries. And it's just like, it's more frustrating than anything. It was frustrating to have to be in crutches, have a back brace on, like having to like learn I lost so much flexibility. Like it just created a lot of issues, but that's any injury for you. I think I would probably say like one of my worst injuries was actually before I fought Amanda and I ended up breaking my leg and sustaining the nerve damage that I did. I barely avoided amputation, so life could have really changed there. And, you know, I mean, I can't feel half of my leg.
No.
Yeah, so it's like an interesting feeling, but like when it initially happened, I was already in an 18-month layoff, had major surgeries after the Misha Tate fight, and then they offered me the biggest fight of my career for the world title. And it was like, you know, I came back and then all of a sudden I ended up in that accident and I just pushed myself. And, you know, I mean, I fought through a broken hand. My last fight, I busted my hand and kept going. And, you know, I've done things, but this one was just one of a kind. And when Amanda kicked it in that first round, like, I was like, oh, something is really wrong. And I've never felt pain to that degree. So like, I really had to slow down and learn how to function with that. We had to get like, the nerve conduction test. We had to do all kinds of stuff to my leg. I like lived in physical therapy. And it was just like, all right, like I need to take this thing like really serious and figure it out. And, you know, they were worried about like drop foot, compartment syndrome in my leg. Like there were so many things. My calf was like rolled up and they were like, if your calf is torn, like there's nothing we can do. We can't go back in there and sew it because that would basically be like trying to sew hamburger meat together. It doesn't work. And so like, yeah, I like that injury that was a rough one to try to come back from and like just trying to get like everything back. And, you know, I mean, with my leg tightening up, it created lower back issues. And so
it's crazy to think, right? Broken back and trying to get back on that horse. We really did get into it with Raquel. She talked about starting to train martial arts at the age of 19, ran back her first pro fight, which was a TKO finish against Kim Couture. We talked about being engaged to strawweight fighter Tisha Torres. Her 6-month suspension came up, so did cutting weight and what her cheat foods are. Watching tape of opponents. If you follow the Depp Heard defamation case, you'll know that Raquel got pulled into this trial as a case of mistaken identity. Same name, wrong Raquel Pennington. What a mess.
Yeah, it was. It was,
like, what?
It's funny to me how people are so interested and invested. And like, just the fact that like, if you're going to be so invested into something, why do you not have your facts together? And so I was just, you know, it was annoying. I got to a point that I was like, all right, I'm honestly tired of hearing about this thing. I mean, just because I was getting drug into the whole thing, I did go and watch a little bit of it. And I think those girls made themselves look absolutely ridiculous. Like it was just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it just, you know, through that whole process, it really amazed me how people can take the time out of their day and get online and go say the most disgusting things to another human being. For one, like just watching the messages I was getting, I was just like, wow, like the fact that you even take your time to talk to somebody else like this is just like, it just shows character in people. And it also shows how people just really feed off of each other and why the world is the way it is, you know? I mean, there's so much hatred and there's so much segregation because of people's behavior like this. And so it was, it kind of like broke my heart just to the degree to see reality. But then at the same time, like, you know, I had nothing to do with that case. So I was getting attacked for no reason. And I was kind of just making fun of people with the stuff that they were saying. They would write me these nasty things and how karma's going to get me. And I was like, well, you know, for somebody that's not invested, like, I think karma's coming your direction because you're taking the time to write somebody who has no clue. And then all of a sudden it was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. We're huge fans of yours. And I'm just like, get out of here. Like, it just really separates people, you know? And I don't know. It was an adventure to say the least, so.
Toddcast Sporting Guest visits are powered by Capit Chilliwack, providing the best quality products and services for you and your truck. Online at facebook.com/ChilliwackCapit.
Just an alibi. You were born with a criminal mind, and the day you make it up, call me right away. Are you selling God or merchandise? Are you working for the man? He's got snipers all around the White House lawns, as washed as your pocket. This is the promised land. And when they taught you, they would always play fair. And when you know it's a lie, who are the ones that will always be there beside you? Hey. If heaven is a mile away, we're on the other side. If heaven is a mile away, come a bit closer. If heaven is a mile away, we're on the other side. If heaven is a mile away, and we're on the other, we're on the other side. Come and voodoo, banging on your bongo drum, chasing the light away. For those hell-bent on self-perfection, one simple question will remain. When the streets are clean and your heart pure, can you get down and dirty once again? Nobody showed me the disclaimer that says real people and not actors. 1,000 bright-skinned gods with their eyes on the sky, only rain trickling down. If heaven is a mile away, we're on the other side. If heaven is a mile away, we're on the other side. Come a bit closer. If heaven is a mile away, we're on the other side. If make it right. I'm right here trying to get through to you on the other side. And I don't know what I should do, but I wanna make it right. I'm right here trying to get through to you on the other side. They say heaven is a mile away, and I'll rush the
Toddcast Podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca. And now, listen to this on the Toddcast Podcast.
Any fan of MMA will know the name Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling, currently the champion of UFC's bantamweight division. He has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Matt Serra and is rated the number 10 pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet. He's been fighting professionally since 2011, starting off in Cage Fury Fighting Championships, where he won and defended the Bantamweight Championship. It wasn't long before you saw him move into the UFC. And when Aljamain was a guest, we talked about excelling in wrestling as a kid and that MMA was kind of the natural progression. Comic books and superpowers came up. So did legalized marijuana. He shared a story about going to dance hall shows in Jamaica, how Khabib is probably the best pound-for-pound fighter all time, his words. We talked about aliens, binge-watching Billions, and Aljamain talked about the day that he got a call from the UFC to come fight for the organization. Listen to this.
It's kind of like, the best way to describe it is like playing college football or any other sport before you go to the professional league, playing baseball. You do well, you get scouted, and you get a shot at the big leagues. And I would say the UFC is the equivalent of being in the NFL or the NBA or MLB.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
So you win a couple fights on the regional circuit is what we call it, or you travel to a bunch of different circuits around the world or around the country, and a couple of wins. You do it in spectacular fashion, get a buzz going, and hopefully you get that phone call to your manager or to yourself. And that's what happened. I went 8-0, and I eventually got the phone call, and the rest is history.
Listen to this on the Toddcast Podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC-approved repair shop. Find them online at tedcorvsuppliesinc.com.
The seventh day of the week of ups and downs. I'm really starting to think that we should bounce. I need to replace some flowers. It's too late, but I still love you. Seventh day of the week, it turns out you would stop the states. I mispronounce. I need to escape your manic power. There's no shame that I don't want to. There's cracks in the brain of the master's masterpiece. There's a hole in the hand of the man who ate my days. And the sun follows rain, like it always eats the pain. Ambitious tendencies. I've put lots of poison in the jar, but I've enjoyed the day.
still love you.
That band, Hours Wasted, fronted by Dom Fricot, who we've played since we launched the podcast back in 2015. Absolutely love his stuff. And that's his latest project, Hours Wasted, a cool song called Ambitious Tendencies. I think I mentioned this the last time we played Dom's stuff. He's over in Germany now. He's been there for about 4 or 5 years. He does occasionally pop back into Vancouver here and there, and he's played a handful of shows over the years. I texted him a little while back saying, hey, look, dude, if you're coming back to Vancouver, let me know, as I'm starting to set up those acoustic Q&A shows at Blue Light Studio in East Vancouver. And maybe, I mean, those nights are going to be ridiculously fun. Maybe we can get Dom to play regardless of the project. He's a phenomenal player. And we're working on getting the band you heard prior to Dom, the Boom Booms, to play one of these shows as well. Maybe you caught the Cheap Thrills show that they did, which is, again, acoustic Q&A. I host the whole thing from stage and stuff. This was at the Railway downtown Vancouver, probably 4 or 5 years back now. We got them to write a song on the spot. Took suggestions from the crowd, and it was right around Christmas and over the holidays, and they did it. It was so good that people came up afterwards and on social media for days. Dude, did you have that planned? Like, so good. Oh my God. And it's like, dude, we took suggestions from the audience. How could we have that planned? And for sure, I would not plant something like that. That's not cool. Bottom line, hopefully the Boom Booms can bang off another one of these kind of nights. It has been a hot minute, like I said, 4 or 5 years now. Speaking of live music, find a list of indie shows happening locally with the indie scene at toddhancock.ca. If you're playing a show or checking one out, if it's indie, let us know about it. We'll post it up there. That's brought to you by Mystic Rhythms Rehearsal Studios. We're talking over 40 years experience in the music industry. They are family owned and operated. Everybody loves that place. Plowed through the pandemic, and they're once again good to go. Find out more through mysticrhythms.ca. Okay, our final guest of episode 279 is actor Antonio Cupo, this week's entertainment lifestyle guest. It's powered by Canuck Auctions, Canada's largest memorabilia and collectibles auction house. You can find them online at canuckauctions.com. You'll know Antonio Cupo as a local boy, born here in Vancouver, where we're based out of. He's been involved with the stage in one form or another most of his life. He and I go way back, probably about 20 years now. Initially, as off the top, mentioning that I'd met him when he was in a band called Hybrid Cartel. He was the singer. I was doing C Fox's The Fox afternoon show here in Vancouver, and it was through the Seeds program, which I mentioned off the top. Antonio's band made it to the top 3 or top 5 or whatever it was, and they were playing shows for the radio station, a really good band. All the while, though, Antonio is dabbling in acting as well. So he moves to LA, gets some great gigs in film and TV. We're talking Steven Spielberg, James Cameron. You've seen him in Bomb Girls alongside of Meg Tilly, Ice with Donald Sutherland. More recently, starred in Peacemaker. Brilliant series. Antonio talks about title actor John Cena and director James Gunn being super, super funny guys. And it was that his sister, Carmelina, that got him into acting.
Yeah, actually, that's true. I feel like all of my successes in life, Carmelina was responsible for them. Like she was looking for an agent, and she's like, you should give me your headshot. And then, I got an agent from that. She was like, hey, like they really need actors in the, the school plays. And I was like, all right, sure, I guess I'll come. She's like, you really should come. I was playing sports and doing other things. And then suddenly I found this passion for, for being on, being in the spotlight in that way. I guess being in the spotlight is not the thing. It was more just acting, and the spotlight came along with it. But, all of my successes in life are due to my sister. She's been an amazing influence in my life.
And some pretty big props to Carmelita, Antonio's sister, pulling him into the acting world back in the day, which spun him into acting, and I'm going to slaughter the pronunciation, I'm sure, in Elisa de Rivo Ambrosa, which is the most watched TV series in the history of Italian television. He did a 135 show tour with the Rodgers Hammerstein's musical Cinderella, where he played the charming prince. The kid has chops. The full talk with Antonio is close to 40 minutes. You can hear it. You can see it. Another Zoom chat at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube accounts. You'll hear him talking about COVID and how that affected production on movie and TV sets, the music that was in his house as a kid growing up, like Cream, Elvis, a bunch of folk music. And Antonio shared a story about starring in Elegy with Penelope Cruz. And boy, what a story.
Did I ever tell you about the Penelope Cruz story?
No.
Oh my God. So we were on that set. Isabelle Crichette is the director. And she's just phenomenal. And Penelope Cruz, and I show up, I get hired for this job, and I'm playing her brother. I'm playing her brother in the movie. That's what I get hired for. And I was like, okay, cool, play a brother in the movie. And suddenly, I get a call a few weeks later, and it's like, hey, there's been a big change, and Penelope no longer wants you to play her brother. And I was like, oh, and I remember I was in LA and my agent called me, and I'm just like, oh, that sucks. All right, well, it was kind of too good to be true anyways. And, let's just move on. And she was like, no, in fact, she wants you to play her lover. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. She saw the headshots on the wall, and she was like, no, this guy can't be my brother. He's got to play my lover. And I'm going, this is insane. And they said, oh, and by the way, for the change, they want to increase your rate because they feel bad that you lost this role for this other role, casting. So, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Literally, I will do this for free. You know what I mean? And so then I finally, and it's like a month and a half away or something. So it's some time, and I'm just working out like crazy. I'm playing her lover. It's going to be this grandiose sex scene. This is my that they always say Brad Pitt was discovered for his part in Thelma and Louise, where he's plays the guy with this six pack
in the hotel room there. Yeah.
I'm working. Yeah. So I'm working out every day, just killing myself in the gym. And I show up on set, and, Penelope's there, and we're ready to start. And the director's explaining the scene, and it's in the bathroom, right? It's just this sex scene in the bathroom. And I'm like, okay. So I said, she goes, yeah, throw her up on the counter, and then you have sex with her here on the counter. I was like, okay, but where do you want me to take off my shirt? And she's just like, what? I'm like, where do you, I'm just going to I'll just take it off before. She's like, no, you're not taking off your shirt. You're having sex with someone. Have you never had sex with someone in the bathroom before? You don't take off your clothes. You just have sex with them. And I'm like, oh, and I just figured maybe because I wanted to show off my body. I was like, yeah, this is going to be amazing. I've been working out for a month and a half, killing myself in the gym. I'm taking branched chain amino acids, protein powder, creatine, I'm going through the list.
She's like, no, you keep your shirt on, bud.
Yeah. She's like, no, keep your shirt on. And actually,
that's great.
Sucks. This is it's got to be better than this, right? So anyway, so we start the scene, and she goes, and where I'm making out with Penelope in the bathroom, and I sort of halfway with things. I'm not really too, I'm just kind of feeling it out to see how it's going to go. And the director goes, cut. She goes, cut. Antonio, for us, the breasts are very important. And I'm like, well, for us, they're important too. She's from Spain, right? She's like, for us, they're very important. Can you take the Penelope breast in your mouth? And I'm like, excuse me? I said, is
what?
Is Penelope okay with that? I turned around and Penelope's like, yes. And I'm like,
oh.
I was like, okay. I mean, this is this is the stuff they don't teach you in acting class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway,
wow.
We go ahead and do the scene, not to get too graphic. We get all the bits and pieces the director wants that don't end up in the movie. But it's an incredible experience all the way around. And I got to meet Penelope, of course. And, that was before.
Yeah, you sure did.
Yeah, of course. She was really embarrassed. It was funny because I'm like, she's a big star, right? And I'm just a guy from Vancouver. And I'm like, she's like, I'm not used to doing these kind of scenes. And she goes, it's never uncomfortable for me. And I said, just don't worry. Just think about how lucky you are to be doing this scene with me. And she started laughing.
That's great, man.
That was the icebreaker.
Can you imagine? Like, what? Can I put Penelope Cruz's nipple in my mouth? What is going on? As we always do, we went further than what our guests are known for. Family life. We talked about Sonic the Hedgehog and the parental controls on TV and devices. Like, how do you keep your kids from seeing and hearing the things you don't want them to see and hear? Antonio talked about European customs as well, like allowing kids to drink, how there's nudity in film and on the beaches, and the more laid-back lifestyle.
There isn't a child in Italy that has not tried wine or beer. I mean, no one's feeding kids spirits. They're feeding them wine and beer,
right?
You know, and they're not even feeding them, but it's there. My kid sees a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or a beer, he doesn't want to touch it.
Right?
He just, well, that's beer. I don't like the taste of it. When they were kids, they were kind of curious about it. I remember once my son came down and there was a beer on the table, and he walked up, and I'm sitting on the phone, right? We're just talking, and he walks up down the steps, right up to the table, grabs my beer, takes a sip, puts it down, and walks back up the steps. And I was just like, what just happened?
That's awesome.
Literally the last time he ever tasted beer.
Yeah. He found out he didn't like it. There you go. There's probably less drinking problems in that country than there are in this continent.
In Italy, there is in Italy and Spain, and, in Europe in general, but there's nudity on TV, right?
And on the beaches, and
every show's got dancing girls. People are smoking everywhere. People are drinking. I mean, literally daily with every single meal, and none of those problems exist.
Right? It's because it's not normalized, but again, it's part of the customs. It's like, that you shouldn't be abusing that stuff.
And then you go to like some places in North America that are so repressed sexually, and in other ways, and they get all twisted up in their brain, and then they end up, shooting somebody or raping somebody or doing some crazy stuff.
Right.
It's like all these people needed was just a little bit of like an open mentality, like, hey, stuff exists, enjoy yourself, don't screw up your life. You know what I mean?
Right. It's almost because it's vilified, right? It's almost at that point of like, oh, don't do this. You can't drink until you're 19. You can't do this until, and it's because of that. It's like, okay, maybe now I will want to try it, and then I'll do it too much.
Dude, how many times were you sitting at the Roxy and there's like, a busload of girls from that are like just turned of age for Canada, and they're showing up just getting sloshed.
Right.
Guys and girls getting sloshed because there's 2 years, we have drinking age 2 years before America. So, they're coming up here and they're getting hammered.
Right.
Is the drinking age still the same?
19, yeah.
19 here, right?
Yep.
And it's 21 for America.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're coming up here getting
wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going like, all they have to do is lower the drinking age, and they can get wasted at least and go home and sleep and not, find themselves in a difficult situation to be in.
Right.
Compromising situation in another country.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Toddcast Podcast entertainment guest visits are powered by Canuck Auctions, Canada's largest memorabilia and collectibles auction house. Find them online at canuckauctions.com.
Memory's a funny thing. It can leave you when you need it the most. Makes you almost anything. Makes you victim, makes you host. They don't even know your name. And time is of the essence, they say. Never gonna be the same when you get back to the start. Swipe right again. 'Cause I never wanted to hold you more than I do right now. 'Cause you're digging your own grave and you can't get out. 'Cause you're easy love. It doesn't matter no more, no less. You're anything. It can leave you when you need it the most. It makes you almost anything. Makes you victim, then you ghost. They don't even know your name. Time is of the essence, they say. Never gonna be the same when you get back to the start. Swipe right again. I never wanted to hold you more than I do right now. I tried to say those words, I tried, but they don't come out. I never wanted to hold you, but what you gonna do for now? 'Cause you're digging your own grave and you can't get out. 'Cause you're easy love. It doesn't matter no more, no less. So easy love. There wasn't much to say. 'Cause you're easy love. It doesn't matter no more, no less. You're easy love. There wasn't much to say. I never wanted to hold you more than I do right now. Tried to say those words, I tried, but they don't come out. I never wanted to hold you, but what you gonna do for now? 'Cause you're digging your own grave and you can't get out. 'Cause you're easy to love. So easy to love. You're easy love. It doesn't matter no more, no less. So easy love. There wasn't much to say. 'Cause you're easy love. It doesn't matter no more, no less. So easy love. There wasn't much to say. So easy, just so easy. Oh, it's so easy, just so easy. Oh, it's so easy, easy love. Oh, there wasn't much to say.
Just a fantastic song. They are Best Night Ever, and a brilliant song for them called Easy to Love. Now, we've asked them to dial up a night with us at the Blue Light Studio in East Vancouver. We're going to be doing those shows again the last Friday of the month, starting next month on July 29th. If you're a betting person, you might want to put your money on Best Night Ever doing Blue Light sessions with us in the near future. Just a killer band. Good group of guys as well. They are just a powerhouse of players too. Top players, elite in Vancouver scene. We can't wait to get them hopefully doing another night with us sooner than later. A big thanks to this week's guests as we wrap things up. One Bad Son singer, Shane Connery Volk. Dude, so great to jump on a Zoom with you and get caught up in your world. Stoked for the live shows of your comic book, Nottingham. Just amazing. You rock, man. I look forward to hanging out next time you're in Vancouver. UFC fighter Raquel Pennington, thank you for jumping on Zoom as well. As we said, we're longtime fans of MMA. We're all the way back to the UFC 1, and we've pretty much seen everyone since. So good luck with your climb back to the top. We will be watching. We will be cheering you on. And actor Antonio Cupo, brother, I mean, how good was it to jump on a Zoom and catch up? Super proud of everything you've done. You're absolutely killing it. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Let's grab those beers soon. Summer. You hear that? Summer's calling, bud. I think with that, we'll wrap it up. Episode 279. My name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for listening, for being there. We know that you have some choices, and we're super stoked that you'd spend an hour of your week with us, because we're roughly about an hour a week, something like that. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, get the notifications. iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube has all of the videos that we do. Comment and rate the podcast as well. That is big for us. It's all at Toddcast Podcast on social media, of course. Massive thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors. You can find all sponsor websites at toddhancock.ca's homepage. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you can for as little as $10 a day. Very inexpensive, very cheap They say don't say cheap because it's a bad negative. It's freaking cheap. $10 a day. Contact info is at the homepage. Maybe we'll have a beer, have a coffee, and see what's up, how we can help each other. Help us find a sponsor, by the way. We'll give you a commission based on the ad buy. So if you get a business that maybe should sponsor the podcast, Toddcast, shoot them our way, and we'll take it from there. Till next time, don't be an asshole. Nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard, and most of all, believe in yourself.
You've been listening to the Toddcast podcast, powered by The Pint, Vancouver's favorite sports bar at 455 Abbott Street, and online at vancouver.thepint.ca.
Talmor, Sheshin Morachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my 2 wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. The one thing I constantly hear successful people say, without fail, is that they wish they'd spent more time with their kids. That's time no one can get back. So I decided to create Business Dad, to engage in the conversation about how we're spending our time now, providing a forum for successful dads to share their joys and challenges of being a working parent. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier. And while this podcast will talk about business and will definitely be featuring dads, I think everyone can learn something from these incredible conversations as we unpack the expectations we all have about careers, relationships, and ourselves. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.